Hi, this is the pilot for the first episode of the season.
And Edward will join us eventually.
Opening thought. I just want to make a statement before I get into anything big. I love Malcolm's writing. After watching this, I have to say hands down, this was the worst episode he's wrote so far.
Wow.
I mean, I love him as a writer, and I will defend him until I die, but everything about this was just a massive failure for me.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll get into that as we go into the details. I think that Moffat in general is a pretty hit and miss writer. In terms of consistency of quality, his heyday is long behind him. I think he still makes some really good episodes. I'm one of the few people who loves Hellbent. I think Hellbent and Heaven Sent complement each other perfectly. Together, those two episodes are maybe a masterpiece. We'll get into this episode. I think it was mostly just unremarkable. I think he's made worse episodes. I think Angels in Manhattan is a way worse episode than this.
Oh no, that's one of my favorites. We'll have to talk about that one.
Christmas specials, yeah, the snowman, the doctor, the widow, and the wardrobe.
I mean, I can understand people having problems with his other episodes, but there seemed to be at least effort being put into this. This felt like there was no effort at all.
But yeah, I suppose you're right. If you're defining bad as an absence of good, then this is probably worse than some of his other episodes, but I don't know. Since the main attraction, the main new thing here is Bill, should we just start off by talking about her character?
I thought she was alright, but I did feel like some of the writing for her was trying to make her dumb on purpose, and it just felt like it was trying to be funny and hey, Edward.
Cut ourselves off there and let Edward give his thoughts on the episode. Lucy liked it less than I expected, but I think it'll be hard for either of us to top you in terms of how little you liked this episode. Do you want to tell them what you posted on Facebook about this episode?
I didn't hate it because I never gave a damn about what was happening. Wasn't bad enough for me to hate, say, Asylum of the Daleks. It wasn't great for me to love, say, Human Nature. It just flat out sucked.
Asylum of the Daleks was also another one I think was worse than this. Also, you, Edward, said that you liked this so little that you're not even gonna bother watching the rest of the season.
Nope, I am not gonna watch the rest of Series 10.
Now we're talking about Bill, and I like Bill. Lucy mentioned that she comes off as dumb at times, and that didn't happen with me. And I was actually looking out for that because when we got that little teaser of her a few months back, introducing her with her asking all the questions about the Dalek and stuff, that was my big concern, is that we're going to bring her in and she's going to be real dumb comic relief who asks really stupid questions. But that didn't really happen, I don't think.
Well, I don't really think she's dumb per se. I just think the writing's trying to make her come across as nonchalant attitude, and they're trying to be funny with it, and that just comes across kind of dumb. The speech that she had at the very beginning about the French fries, and what was the point of that?
That moment confused me because it's the doctor asks why she's at his lectures. She explains how she gets into the lectures, and it's with this girl, and then she tangents onto talking about the girl. So is what we're supposed to take from that she's just girl obsessed? That was a weird moment. And the weird line about the TARDIS being a kitchen, even in trailers, that line didn't make any sense to me. But Edward, thoughts on Bill as a character?
It's Series 7 Clara all over again. I don't hate her. Don't feel anything for her.
But Clara's problem was her first series was she didn't really have a character. Bill, I do feel, has a personality and a character.
It's not well defined in this episode.
I think we've defined Bill better. It's not great, but we've defined her better in this one episode than we ever did with Clara in Series 7.
Yeah.
Retroact, I can say I like that because Series 7 Clara is just supposed to be a normal average person, and over the course of the next two series she gets less and less human, and that's a contrast. But with Bill, it's just she's kind of quirky. She's got issues with the fact that her mom died. She likes girls. She's sort of outgoing. I don't know. It's Like, I'd need a minute to think about it, but I could tell you some interesting stuff about her from this episode. I don't know.
So far, I do like her. I just feel like there was these moments, like I said, with French fries, speech, and just being kind of almost airhead when she saw the TARDIS. It's like they're trying too hard to make her like funny and stuff, and it's not always working.
I'm just glad I didn't waste money seeing this episode at the theater for that Pandago event.
Yeah, and usually when they have the episodes in the theaters, they usually do a really good job. So I thought Moffat was going to put a lot of effort into this, and it just seemed like he was sleepwalking through it.
Well, it's just that it doesn't feel like a blockbuster, right? Its episodes get put in theaters because he starts making them feel like Hollywood action movies half the time.
I mean, the series two-part introduced the Cybermen that had its own theater event was more of a blockbuster than this.
Yeah, that feels like a movie. This would be like if you put a classic Who episode, one of the real slower paced ones, in like theaters, like modern 21st century movies.
Cut out half the runtime.
It's real deliberately paced, and we're not doing a lot of action stuff, which is weird because like the main alien conflict this time around is literally just a cat and mouse chase.
That doesn't amount to anything aside from a misunderstanding.
I know you two don't like the Dalek episode, Asylum, but I could see something like that in the theater before this.
Yeah.
There's just nothing here that makes you exciting or want to see it on a big screen. It's pretty boring, most of it. And even when they did do the cat and mouse chase thing, it was just very lackluster.
We got ourselves into a corner because the thing that's chasing us doesn't want to hurt us. It wants to take Bill away. So once we've established that, then it's like, okay, so it's not too much of a threat. But at the same time, we can't just pretend like we don't know what that is through the whole episode, because then we're wasting time.
I think that was a real big missed opportunity because, okay, we have the Doctor taking Bill and showing her how the TARDIS basically works, and they kind of do this, but he takes her to an alien planet, he takes her to the next day, and that's kind of cool and all, but it feels very lackluster. I think this was done better, and I forget the Bells of St. John or whatever, when you took Clara into the airplane, remember?
Or Hyde, where they were traveling through the different life stages of Earth to figure out the ghost thing.
Yeah.
The airplane thing especially was my favorite scene of that episode. I don't know, I can't help but think like maybe the best version of this episode is where like we skip all of the prologue stuff. Like the first time the Doctor and Bill meet each other is when she's being chased by this thing, and the Doctor's like, alright, let's get out of here in my TARDIS, and it chases them all around the universe, and make that the episode where it's like 30-ish minutes of them running from this thing in different time periods and different like locations and stuff.
That would have been really cool, and it would make sense for like a blockbuster episode. And the cinematography, I don't know if it has to do anything with the budget cut, but this episode looked really cheap.
The most visually rich episodes have been stuff like Heaven Sent, and we usually reserve that for either openings or finales, whereas the episodes in between just sort of look like Doctor Who episodes. This just kind of looks like an episode.
Year off, and the production team feels like they're tired still. This might be Stephen Moffat's Planet of the Dead, where it just screams run out of steam.
Which is weird because I think it's fair to say that we're in the minority for not really liking this episode. I haven't heard enough, but I mean Trilby likes it, and when's the last time that he liked the Moffat episode?
It just feels like retreading stuff that we've done before better.
This is the second episode in a row that we're going to talk about that has the Doctor being a professor or a teacher of some kind.
Feels like one of those episodes in Buffy season 7 where nothing happens.
Yeah, well, we can't talk about that too much because Nicholas hasn't seen that.
That's a warning for Buffy season 7, Nicholas.
I don't think you guys are wrong. Like, this isn't really a very exciting or engaging episode, but at the same time, I want to be careful not to judge it next to other episodes that are trying to be huge blockbusters, because it's not trying to be that. Like, if this episode billed itself as like an exciting romp and then it failed to be that and then it was boring, then I would have more of a problem with it. But this is just trying to be a really laid back sort of thing where we introduce this new character dynamic and there happens to be an alien in there somewhere.
It's just that the previous finales, good or bad, had moments that you could remember. This episode just said a lot of the plot feels so inconsequential that there's nothing memorable about it.
My problem with it just feels like there's nothing there. There's no effort being put into it. It's going through the motions. And to me, I can take like the worst Mothman or Russell T Davies episode in the world. At least if there's effort being put into it, it has some entertaining value. I can tell there's no effort being put into this.
I don't know, I feel like there are some memorable things, although, like, we just watched it, so time will tell how actually memorable it is. But the problem is that none of them are action beats or, like, conflict resolution things. It's all stuff like the doctor delivering Bill pictures of her mom as, like, a Christmas gift. Like, that was a great moment, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was the only moment that I really enjoyed in the whole thing. I thought that was very cute and sweet.
That in the scene where Bill realizes that there's a monster in her flat.
That was a nice tension scene.
What if there was a silence standing in front of us while we were all watching this episode? What if that's why we don't remember much?
But I was also thinking about stuff like the doctor's speech or like the lecture that he gives. It astounds me that this isn't something that people regularly talk about with Stephen Moffat's writing for this show, because this is something that he does in damn near every episode that he writes. Is he takes something, either like a piece of terminology or a bit of iconography that's been with this show for years and years and years, and he'll like put his take on it into the dialogue, and no one talks about how he does that, and yet he's always doing that. Like, he gives the doctor this big speech about how time works, time in relative dimensions in space, it means life, and he's always doing stuff
Big ball of timey-wimey stuff.
like, oh, it's just the initials of the TARDIS, and yet we made it like a philosophical thing. Stephen has a habit of doing that, like adding depth to stuff that's been around for a while, but is also just kind of surface details.
Which I can appreciate because it makes things a little bit more interesting.
One thing that sticks out to me in the speech is like time and relative dimension in space, it means life. Yeah, that's true, if you think about it, but it's like I feel like that's something only Moffat would do, or Moffat would think to do. Just like this is something that only Edward would think to do.
Damn it, Edward, what are you doing?
Every live stream is just gonna be Lucy and I talk about stuff. Edward provides amazing shenanigans in the background.
Pepsi product placement. Still
Jeez.
talking about the pilot, aka A Star in Her Eye, which was what the episode was originally titled.
Oh, that was the original title?
Yeah, and like in the initial press release and for a while on TARDIS Wiki.
I prefer Pilot as a title in theory, coming off of Hellbent, which feels like an ending. That episode really feels like the conclusion to a lot of themes and ideas Moffat's been talking about for years. But in practice, it feels like a fresh start, but it also doesn't feel like a very compelling fresh start.
Feels like a fresh start where everything's tired and stale.
If we want to talk about the pilot, the character, as in Heather, I'm a bit iffy on her because, like, we establish enough about her personality that I can, like, read into it and assume that she has depression, which I'm convinced that she does, but I'm not entirely convinced we're ever going to see her again. But maybe we will, because the way this episode ends makes me think that, like, they're not just going off in the TARDIS for, like, adventures, like the Doctor usually does with his friends. The implication I get from this ending is that they're going to try and find her, and they come across is going to be, like, a byproduct of that. I'm not sure, though. Is that how you guys, like, took this ending?
Yeah, I do think she's going to show up because it's the way they were talking about it. I think the doctor said a line, like, we might find her again. And she had some kind of connection to Bill when she touched her.
So uninterested in talking about the ending that I'd rather talk about the pattern of this paper wrap.
I mean, like,
notice the red and gold stripes.
I mean, what? Not even the bit with Susan and River, and how the Doctor's a crazy person because he talks to pictures?
Cute moment.
That moment was nice. That's all I have to say. And the red bow is shiny.
People are saying that might be foreshadowing for Susan showing up in some way, shape, or form.
No, it's not.
Nah.
I don't think that's likely.
The 50th anniversary was been a good time for Susan make an appearance, and that didn't happen outside of a Easter egg.
But at the same time, this might be the first time in this whole show that we've had like a long shot just focused on a picture of her and like it being verbally acknowledged. So I don't know why people would be like, oh, maybe we're putting that there so people will actually know who she is when she shows up.
We'll have to see, but I think it was just one of those little, like, cute little Easter egg things that they put in the show.
I like the whole pilot thing as an idea. Like, again, that's something that if we'd maybe discussed it or given it a bit more time could have been a really interesting. Moffat's good, even in his bad episodes, at coming up with concepts that sound really fascinating on paper. Like, a spaceship needs someone who wants to leave in order to, like, leave the planet, and so it finds a girl with depression. That's kind of fascinating.
At least we don't have to worry about a Dalek episode.
Really a good thing, I think.
And I just like that they reused some clips of the Bill reveal video.
They're obligated to appear at least once a season. I'm glad we got it out of the way and didn't have to give them a whole episode again, because I'm getting really sick of Dalek episodes.
Same here.
It's a couple of minutes in the first episode, we can just forget about it.
I would gladly forget this episode and think of the emoji episode as the proper premiere.
It sounds like a stupid premise, but I'm willing to give that a shot.
I don't really know anything about it besides the previews. It looks good, but anybody can make a preview look good.
Well, I will watch another episode of Series 10 if either of you two say that the next time trailer looks promising.
Time trailer looks interesting. It seems to be sort of like The Girl Who Waited, in that it's a real sterile environment and they're the only people there and there are these creepy robots. But I'm not sure what the episode is about beyond that.
So someone is ripping off The Girl Who Waited.
Aesthetically, at least.
Yeah.
The story is probably completely different.
It's like Sam Mendes stealing aspects from Johnny English Reborn for Skyfall.
I guess that is sort of his look. This is another way that I would have liked the chase to be more of the episode, because I like the idea of, like, to try and shake one enemy off, the Doctor will, like, drag it through conflicts with other enemies. Like, this monster is facing me, what am I gonna do? It can follow the TARDIS anywhere. I know. Let me bring it into a war zone with other monsters and see if they can kill each other.
Yeah, the concept is really cool, but I just don't feel like the execution was very well. I don't know if it's because of the budget or what.
Like, he makes it follow them into a Santaran war or something. He makes them follow it into, like, Vashta Nerada territory or something, and that does nothing. So then he's like, okay, breaking out the big guns, and then he brings them to the Daleks.
Edward, you keep sending me pictures during it. Everybody, take a look.
The last several episodes have not been kind to you, Edward. They've left you with... You seem to have been bored through the last couple of these. I apologize.
I'm kind of done with hating on Moffat, who now I'm just bored with most of it.
I enjoy talking about an episode that I did not like.
It depends what kind of dislike it is, though, right? Like, if you're just bored, then...
This might be my new contender for the worst episode of New Who, because of how uninterested I am in remembering it.
I don't know. I think you guys are being harsh. Like, yeah, this episode isn't very memorable, and it's not a very fun watch, but there have been several...
We review Doctor Who episodes. It's our job to be cruel, even though we're not getting paid, but we should.
Like, see, now I'm trying to remember really unmemorable episodes.
Fear Her?
Fear Her is, yeah. Like, I was gonna say that episode's too stupid to be completely unmemorable, but as I'm sitting down and watching it, it is just kind of uninteresting.
Idiot's
What was
Lantern.
that one from last? The Idiot's Lantern we'll get to, I guess, pretty soon.
I want to skip that one.
That's probably the one out of Series 2 that we can skip, so why not? It's around this quality, I think.
Sleep No More. That was my previous pick for the worst episode of New Who.
That's still my pick. Worst New Who, maybe even Who as a whole, classic audio stories. That story legitimately almost put me to sleep. Sleep No More made me want to sleep a lot more.
Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman. No, I'm not going to.
At least the pilot never almost literally put me to sleep.
This was not close to the worst episode at all. What is he doing now? He did.
What? Did you spray the can?
I sprayed it
Oh,
to
God.
get this cool effect with the flares.
Oh, God.
Dear God.
Final thoughts. It's hands down not the worst episode. You've seen my list, the worst episodes, the worst Mothman era episode.
I guess the worst I can say about it is that I think it's the worst of the season openers. I think it's the least interesting that any of these have been in terms of starting a season.
This episode deserves something that I only give a few things. A 0.
I'm not kidding.
That's just weird. But okay,